Good afternoon. I am Mayor Cashenna Cross from the city of Glenarden, and welcome to this Mayoral Community Forum. Today's Mayoral Community Forum is designed in a very unique way. It is to allow us to express a concern and an item of interest, which was brought forth by a Maryland teenager by the name of Eric Grantham. It is so important today that we acknowledge Miss Linda Grantham, his mother, who has been with him through his walk and his journey with autism. Eric, you see, is a fully functioning autistic. And what a wonderful young man he is. I'm Mayor Cashenna Cross from the city of Glenarden. Today we're discussing hidden disabilities. We have online with us Mr. Tay Campbell, who is also a survivor, brain injury survivor from having had an accident. We have many more online with us, and I acknowledge our very own Prince George's County Sheriff, Sheriff Carr. Welcome, Sheriff Carr. And all those that are assembled here today with us in this meeting. We thank you for your attention to such a very highly important topic. We're going to talk really quick about this topic, and then we're going to get into the heart and soul of what we're here to discuss. The symptoms may be diagnosed, but many of us are unable to actually hear or see what's happening in the hearts, minds, and soul of those that suffer from invisible symptoms, from invisible disabilities. Invisible illnesses have compounded interest in that not only do you have to suffer with the symptoms, but you have to suffer also with the mix of inability to get others in the community to know that you have a disability without having to always broadcast the point. So Mr. Eric has come up with a way to help us all in the community to consistently be more genuine as well as comfortable when we're meeting with individuals who may suffer from hidden disabilities. And not just only autism, but disabilities of PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, all those that are accommodations that look normal to the everyday eye, but have to have special needs and special care. They also include deafness, people with prosthetics, and also bipolar disorder. Many folks are dealing with diabetes, ADHD, fibromyalgia, arthritis, Alzheimer's, anxiety, sleep disorders, Crohn's disease. The list goes on for the amount of invisible disabilities that cause people issue every day, though they seemingly are normal. Epilepsy is another key one. Cystic fibrosis. All this or many, many more. So the answer that we have here before us today is being put forth by Mr. Eric. And I want to bring Mr. Eric on so that he can introduce himself as well as his mom, Miss Linda, as we began our journey in the discovery of Eric's Law. Over to you, Eric.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linda Carpenter Grantham, and this is my son, Eric Bless Carpenter Grantham. Okay, so where do we begin? As you guys know, Eric is highly functioning autistic. And I had a conversation with Eric when George Floyd was killed. I realized I had an African-American son with an invisible disability, should he be stopped by the police, and what that may look like. And when I had that conversation with Eric, saying to him, I created a scenario that I felt that he could comprehend. And so I said, what if I took you to the movies and your friends and their mothers came to the movies and something broke out in the movie theater and it wasn't you guys, but the police comes to you guys because you guys are all African American, or a person of color, should I say, in the movie theater. And they pull out their stun guns or whatever. They're speaking in an authoritative voice, and they tell you, put your hands up. I said, Eric, put your hands up. Don't reach for your phone to call me, because that would be dangerous. Yell out, I have autism. Yell out, someone call my mom, and yell out my number. He started to cry. He said, Mom, I could do that, but the police would shoot my friends, which became a real reality in that moment, what that would look like for his friends as well, because everybody's different on the spectrum. And so this is when he became, very adamant about, Mom, you got to do something. You got to do something. You got to do something now. And he was crying, and it was just, really a stressful moment to try to get him to understand. But we winded up having a workshop with Chief Conti, who was the chief of police in DC at that time, doing a workshop one-on-one with Eric, Tay Campbell, who was on here. Tay is a brain injury survivor. He's also the brother of the actress Tisha Campbell from Martin. And Tay and I do a lot of work in the community together. And I invited Tay to come with me. I also invited a young lady to go to my church that's in her 30s that has bipolar. I invited a gentleman who has a business for people with dementia, which is another invisible disability. And we did a workshop with the police. And so the thing that I think that was very surprising in that moment for the police is that everyone in the room, you couldn't tell they had a disability. And we wanted it that way at first. And the other thing that we really wanted to do was create that one-on-one with the police, so that they would understand this is totally different from book knowledge, because, they know what autism could be like from reading a book, or, it could be this, it could be that. But when you're actually interacting with somebody who has an invisible disability, you really don't know what you're going to do. So in that moment, Captain Yakisha Poole, who was on here, also used to work for the sheriff's office. And this is how I met her. She was at that workshop. And I think, well, I'll let her talk to you about it, but the workshop was absolutely amazing. And we winded up doing it a couple of more times at different law enforcement agencies. Okay, so after that, Eric is very, very heavy into researching about politics. He loves God and he loves politics. The two things that people clash over is what he wanted to talk about. And so he came to me after the workshop and he said, Mom, can you take me to Congress? I want to talk to Miss Nancy Pelosi about laws for me and my friends to be safe. Should we be stopped by the police? And I said, Eric, I'm so proud of you. I'm going to do my best to get you there. So I started writing some letters. We had a meeting with Senator Chris Van Hollen. We had a meeting with Will Tawando. We had a meeting with Senator Padilla. And we had, several other meetings. But the one that really helped was Senator Chris Van Hollen. He appointed his legislative aide to work with us. And so Eric had created, I have them blown up here so you guys can really see it. Eric has created 3 logos to go on to identifications such as driver's licenses, college IDs, Costco cards, and things like that, library cards. Should a person have an invisible disability be stopped by the police would know how to help them and interact with them. And not only that, this too will also be something used in the community to assist a person with an invisible disability. So this is the first one. If you can see the A for autistic. And then this was the second one for mental health with the green there. And then this was the third one for hearing impaired. You can see the ear there. And so we winded up having a meeting after we met with Senator Chris Van Hollen's office, and his legislative aide worked with us to get the proposal and all that kind of good stuff done. We winded up having a meeting with Senator Will C. Smith, who is the state senator. And I had actually pulled out several different things that have happened with people with disabilities being stopped by the police, being shot, being killed, being hurt. And Senator Will Smith, he was just so impressed by everything Eric had to say, Eric's concerns, and these logos. And so he sat there with us and he said, listen, I'm going to write this bill. And it was a very emotional moment for Eric. It was a very emotional moment for me as well. But I was more proud for Eric because this is something that he really wanted. He's always very concerned for his friends. I'm sorry. He's always very concerned for his friends and himself. And so I'm going to let Eric tell you a little, I'm going to let Eric talk to you from this point on about his feelings about it. So there you go, Eric Grantham, talk to the people.
I don't know what to say because you said mostly half of it, but
it should come from
it's because to protect people like me with disabilities and everything. And not only that, it's to protect me and my friends and everybody like me with hidden disabilities. And what's the one where people can't talk?
Oh, nonverbal.
Nonverbal. And I hope these logos can be an impact. And now me and my mom, the more that we have in these meetings, we decided to just make one logo for every available disability. We haven't found one logo yet, but we've been working on it. And so we can have one logo for every hidden disability. And it says, and it's because, people of color, well as everyone now, is getting killed out here for no reason and find out these people have a hidden disability. And I feel like police train need to be better is because I feel like the police get everything in paper, but I feel like it just needs something new. We need something new in the United States of America. So hopefully we are praying to God that it will get passed. We claiming it's going to get passed in next year's selection, Maryland selection, and we pray it's going to get passed easy.
So do you want to just share with them really quickly? And I just want to say this too really quickly. I invited Miss Christina Hall to be on this meeting as well. And when we get a quick moment, after everybody has their turn, I really want her to share her story with you guys because it's just incredible. I know Tate Campbell is at an event, so he's not going to be on here long. So after Eric, if Mayor Cross, if you don't mind letting him speak next, would be great because I know he can't stay on long. But Eric, please share with them about your friend whose name you cannot say when he walks his dog. Why that's concerned.
He lived closer by me, but not that far from me. We both live in Montgomery County, and we went to school together. But we stayed really close friends. And so what is the sad thing about him is he have autism, but his autism is different. What he is going to do is if he ever met you, he is going to run behind a tree or go behind the wall until he feels like it's okay to come out. And so I worry about him is because really ever stop him when he is walking his dog and stuff like that because he have a dog. And he's in a nice neighborhood, but if police ever...
Why is this one black? Where's that?
Emmanuel. Mr. Emmanuel, could you please mute your... Mayor Cross, do you know who that is? Mr. Emmanuel, yeah, there we go. Okay, go ahead, Eric.
So I was saying was he have a dog, and so he walk his dog when he be talking to me and stuff like that. And so I get worried if he walk his dog. He's mind his business, and he's my age. Just turned 19 like me too last week. And so he looked like he is 21, 22. He is a pretty tall guy, but have a good heart. And so I get worried about him is because if he ever gets stopped by the police, they will think he's high. He would think he's crazy because he make noises and he talk not really well and stuff like that. And so I get scared because they probably will shot him and find out he have a disability and it might be too late. And that's what I'm worried about my friends because we all have autism, but ours is different. And I'm not only saying that to my friends. I'm worried about everybody who have a hidden disability because we deserve to live a life where we can just be happy. But at the same time, we got people out here who's hurting us for no reason. And hearing these stories is pretty sad at this point. And I pray that this ID will change and that it's going to protect people like me.
Eric, we are so inspired by you. I remember the first time I met you at Woodstream Church, and I said, who's that little kid with the Jesus carved in the back of his head? But we saw Eric is an artist, by the way, and He Woke Me Up is one of his artistic named beautiful rendition of reminding us that every day is a gift. And if he woke you up, then that is a day to celebrate. Eric, 26% of the population in America, 26% lives with some type of hidden disability. So we are looking at the autistic community. We're looking at post-traumatic stress community. We're looking at traumatic brain injury, but it's bigger than that. As I stated earlier, cystic fibrosis, folks with diabetes. If you got type 2 diabetes, there are certain foods you can't be given. Sometimes if you have a certain type of diabetes, you could be given a little bit of sugar and it'll bring you right back. So these are also ways that we can enable to protect our community from violence, harm, but also medical emergency alerts. So these are all beautiful opportunities for us to enact change for our community members who are living with hidden disabilities. It is so important that what you have done today brings this power to the forefront. Mr. Campbell, I know he's got to go. Is he still on with us?
Unmute me. So Mayor Cross, I'm calling him now because I don't know if he accidentally hung up or I'm trying to call him and tell him to jump back on really quickly before he goes. I know he said he had to go by 7, but.
Okay. And I do
probably
want to
back
acknowledge Prince George's County Sheriff. Sheriff Carr, welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. How are you today?
Very well. Now, have you seen many incidences since you've even, you've been an officer for a while now, and then coming into being Prince George's County Sheriff? I mean, you're seeing a whole bunch, even because you're the chief auditor of the warrants. You have a whole different cycle of life. You're a home person. You come into the place of businesses. So are you seeing this as a need? Have we marginalized a piece of our community by not bringing forth this identity and of inclusion?
Yes, I would agree with you. So I've met Linda and Eric through now retired Captain Yakisha Poole, who actually went through the class. She basically brought back to the agency about what it feels like to actually have an invisible disability. And being in law enforcement, a lot of times you're coming on the scene and you're trying to assess exactly what is going on, and you're trying to understand exactly, what a person is doing. And in doing so, you are actually more than likely providing or giving some sort of commands or some sort of instruction to an individual. So speaking with Linda and Miss Linda and and Eric, this is a wonderful idea. And that's why I have always been a part as far as supporting it, because it's a wonderful idea. It allows law enforcement to understand and actually show some empathy. It allows us to talk about invisible disabilities so that we could train additionally on those issues and make sure that we are understanding of what somebody may be going through. If we were to give an instruction or some sort of command to an individual and they don't listen, it may not be because they don't want to listen or that they're trying to disobey an order, in which it never should wind up being. It should be us trying to figure out and assess the situation and trying to help people, trying to be there for an individual. And I believe that this Eric's law would actually help law enforcement, not only here in Prince George's County, but throughout the country or throughout the state, at least to understand. And hopefully we can carry this throughout the country as being the first state to do so. Now, I know I was actually with Miss Linda and Eric as we went to MVA, and we talked about, hey, what can we do in these situations and try to get this on? And there was some resistance as far as them not wanting to share that information, or people not wanting to share their invisible disabilities. But for the most part, I think this is a wonderful idea. I think many individuals would love to actually have the opportunity to put that on their driver's license so that if you were to encounter law enforcement or any individual, they'll understand exactly that this person has an invisible disability, and that they may need a little bit more attention or may need you to meet them where they are. So if an individual does not want to be touched because of their invisible disability, you would understand, because that invisible disability will be there. If they're unable to hear, you would understand that, hey, they're not just not listening to you, they're unable to actually hear you, and that you may need to try a different way of trying to communicate with them. So this is a wonderful idea, and I just commend Eric for actually putting this forward and having the courage to go through and meet a lot of our elected officials to get this done.
Thank you so much, Sheriff Carr. And I saw Ms. Baldwin put in the chat there that in addition to having the state photo ID, consider having a lapel ribbon, and a special day to highlight, educate the public about hidden disabilities. And I believe we do some of that in diversity, equity, and inclusion is part of the movement, if you will, to bring in all facets of our community, be it race, sex, color, or we should call it disabilities, because we are now addressing, folks that are paralyzed or that deal with, incapacitations of other types. But Ms. Poole, we want to hear from you. If you will, unmute yourself.
Is Tate on here? Captain Poole, you breaking up terrible. Did Tate come back on? I don't see him.
He's not back on.
Okay.
Ms. Poole, I don't know if you got a internet connection issue there.
Let me check my connection.
Oh, that sounded well. Okay, try now.
Is that better?
Yes.
I seem to have a full signal. But yeah, just let me know.
We got you.
Again, thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Linda, Eric. Always thank you so much for thinking of me. As Sheriff Carr said, I am, to everyone else on the call, I am retired captain from the Office of the Sheriff right here in Prince George's County. And I had the opportunity to meet Ms. Linda and Eric through her training called Dressed in Blue. And Dressed in Blue is intended and targets law enforcement to give us an idea and real insight on people living with invisible disabilities. So I really enjoyed the training because it really gave us a hands-on type of experience. We didn't sit there and just listen to a PowerPoint or read off of a screen. We actually had interactive activities that would give us a little insight to people, again, living with invisible disabilities. So I always like to share my interaction with Tay, since I don't think he's with us. Now, again, we have this training at a law enforcement agency, and I'm in uniform, and I'm going to a training about autism, which I knew and kind of expected to see young people who may be a little fidgety, maybe, has sensory issues and things like that. So I expected that. Well, when I get to this training, I see this grown man, and he's sitting at the table, and he has his hands under the table, and he's just kind of, moving his head side to side, and, just wouldn't be still. And I'm in a police department, I'm around other officers, I'm in uniform, and I have to admit that instantly I started to think, well, I'm gonna need him to be still. I need to see his hands. So I had, prejudged him before I had the opportunity to meet him. So as the training goes on, and we're speaking about the invisible disabilities, and he got up front and shared his story about being a survivor of a traumatic brain injury and started explaining his symptoms and sharing his story, I instantly felt shame, because as a law enforcement officer, I should have known better than to judge someone by their cover. But for that training, I don't think I would have actually taken a second thought to really, take into consideration some of the symptoms and signs that he was displaying as an issue that would make me slow down and approach him had I been on the street. So I really appreciate that training. Again, the hands-on activities that it presented us. Just for example, we took a Brillo pad and we just rubbed it across our hand for a few seconds. And you just imagine that those of us in everyday life, we don't think about the tags in our clothing, but someone living with an invisible disability who may have sensory issues, that tag felt like that Brillo pad rubbing across their skin all day long. If you can imagine having that issue and not being able to resolve it, that would irritate anybody. So then to be confronted by a person of authority or anything like that, and they've been irritated all day from something as minor as a tag in their clothing, you know, it just opened my eyes. I know, as a law enforcement officer, again, it was a great training to reiterate some of the training I had already received as a law enforcement officer. But I have to admit, I don't think we get it enough as a reminder on a regular, consistent basis. So going to Eric's ID law, I am definitely in full support from the perspective of a law enforcement officer, to arm us with as much knowledge as we can before we respond to a call. Even in an intense situation or emergency, we have the opportunity to speak to our dispatchers, and we ask them for premise checks and things like that. What's the history on this address? And they can provide us with information and arm us with knowledge before we get to an incident, so that we can respond accordingly and maybe, you know, bring potential resources as needed. So I think his law is absolutely awesome, and they know they have my full support.
Thank you so much. And we are all 100% behind you, Eric, and we're going to keep pushing the message out there as well. Ms. Hall, can you come online and speak to us as well? Thank you so much. I see you there. Hi.
Hello. And Mayor Cross-Tay just thought he's going to jump on right away.
Okay, when he comes in, let me know so we can get him on. All right, Ms. Hall.
Hello, I'm Christina Hall. I'm Rashawn's stepmother. I don't know if anybody's familiar that Rashawn went missing. As you can see, he does have Down syndrome. He's considered to be nonverbal. He can say little small words like sandwich, eat, hungry, hi. He knows how to use the bathroom and things of that nature, but he did go missing back in October. He went missing for 6 days. He had got away from his caregiver at his residential facility. Unfortunately, he had jumped on an actual bus, one of the metro buses that went through, started in Montgomery County, went through PG County, and ended in DC at Fort Totten, and then he jumped on a train. He had left the train station, went back into the train station, and wound up in a room with no food, no water, no facilities for 6 days. So he was unable to communicate or let us know. There was nothing really we could do besides try to reach out for help, police and things of that nature, hoping to locate him. It was a very tough 6 days of worrying about him and everything like that, and his whereabouts and things of that nature. Unfortunately, he did not have a tag or anything like that. He typically doesn't carry identification, but I believe that Eric's idea would be great for something that we could have on him in the event that he does get away from a caregiver or ourselves and things of that nature. But we were thankful that he was found unharmed, that we still have unanswered questions, but we also were a little disappointed because an alert wasn't available. He didn't qualify for an alert, Amber Alert. He was too old. Silver Alert, he's too young. He wasn't operating a vehicle, even though he got on a bus, and he doesn't ride public transportation. He doesn't have the ability to do that. He doesn't have concept of money and things of that nature. So it's just things like that. I feel like in our government, as Eric's law is talking about, we need some change in those who are special needs, who can't advocate for themselves. So we are trying to work with legislation as well to try to make some changes to put alerts in place for that group, because we don't want this to happen to somebody else whose story wouldn't come out the way his did. And it was just a blessing that he was okay after 6 days without food and water, that he's still alive and well. He didn't need no IV. Praise God. When they found him, he was still in good health. He just needed water. He was definitely hungry.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you. We do celebrate in that praise report as well. And you have brought forth another topic that, as our legislators are looking at Eric's law, to also consider a life alert, because you have a very important piece that you're speaking about. What if I cannot speak for myself? even like we talked about diabetes being a hidden disability. What if I am going through a diabetic coma? I cannot speak for myself. They have certain things for people that, have incontinence or, really are kind of off kilter when they stand, that they can push a button before they fall. But what if you go into a state, or if you're in a state? So you bring out a very good point that there could be, as Ms. Baldwin stated earlier, like a ribbon or maybe some type of life alert tool, put it on a special ID, that they carry with them no matter what. But I love that you are sharing your story, because this is the key. And I say this all the time. Silence is our enemy. Today, we are more diverse than we've ever been in the past. Silence is our enemy. And with you speaking out, you're allowing us as leaders in the community, government leaders, to speak up and get these laws on the books for the whole of the community. This is a law, Eric's law, and the expansion, to what Ms. Hall was talking about, could help build a more safer community for our members in our community that have hidden disabilities. Mr. Tay Campbell, I see you've come online with us. Can you please
Yes,
talk
how you
to
doing?
us? Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yes, how's everybody doing? I'm sorry I missed a little bit. I was coming into this they're doing like the screening for the color of purple. So I'm a little bit on and off, and kicked me out in the garage, but I wish I could have heard more, but I've heard all the way up to Eric's point of view, and it's really a great initiative. I feel like, it's needed. It's very, very much needed right now. And, because I had my own struggles with the law enforcement coming up early on, when I was all the way since I was 10 years old, when my incident happened. I was actually 8.5 years old when I fell onto the nail, and pierced my skull. And then after that injury, I had, when at 10 years old, I had a whole, I had four craniotomies done on me, and they had to release the pressure from my brain. So ever since 10, 11 years old, I always was going through it with law enforcement. And I could remember the first time that I ever encountered them. I was like on a journey, like I would just go on my own journey walks by myself, around 11 years old. And I had a toy gun with me one time, and I was roaming the streets, and I actually pointed it at an officer, because at this point I had a brain injury, and I didn't know how to control or even think things through all the way. So he taught me a lesson, and he came at me real aggressive, the police officer that I pointed that to. And I remembered that. But all throughout my life after that, I actually encountered the law enforcement a lot more as I got more older. I got more aggressive. And I didn't really have the proper, at the time, I didn't have the proper resources and different stuff that let me know that I was, that I needed to stay in front of this stuff. And but over time, I remember certain times like getting pulled over, and the police lights would be in my face, and I automatically frown my face up like this. And it's like, whoa, and this face right here, it don't just look like you blinded me. It looked like I want a problem too. So it's a thin line, between, like cops just pulling up on you. Some of them, they have to be aggressive. But if they knew, like if they shot their light the first time and I did like this, say, let me see your ID. And I give them my ID, and on that ID, it shows them that they trained to see that this guy right here has some mental issues. You know what I'm saying? He's a traumatic brain injury person. So this light might not be good for him. He tell his buddy on the other side, hey man, put the light down. You know what I'm saying? That's number one. That right there would give, kind of like it would what do you call it? It would basically, relieve the situation for a second, because it'd give the person with the brain injury a chance to acknowledge, whatever else that they want to know about him, or give him a chance to not look threatening. You know what I mean? And sometimes also the way that I talk, thank God that I got pulled over. My father passed away about 4 weeks ago, and I got pulled over the day that he passed away when I was going to see him. And thank God I know how to really talk to the police officers and let them know, I don't tell them about my brain injury and stuff, but it'd be great not to be able to say nothing about that, because sometimes, I might even talk slow or slur my words a little bit, like I am drunk or something, but I'm really not. I'm just saying it slow, or I might be nervous, and then, stumble upon what I'm saying, and my words get twisted up. But if he knew that I was a traumatic brain injury survivor, that paces a lot, that does this and this a lot, that say he get me out the car and I just start pacing around, and, because, now I'm nervous and I'm like, but if he had something to, that he did the knowledge on this and said, wait, I studied this already. Traumatic brain injury people, they tend to pace back and forth. They tend to have racing thoughts. They tend to, be light sensitive. And all of us that have hidden disabilities have just about the most, the five senses is always sensitive to things. You know what I mean? Touch, all that. So let's just say also that, I know I'm going all over the place, but I'm giving you instances. Like, let's just say also that it got to a point where, because just because I'm a traumatic brain injury person don't mean I ain't do nothing wrong, that I could have did something wrong enough to get locked up. But at the end of the day, because I'm sensitive to touch and stuff like that, if he put the handcuffs on me hard like he normally put them on somebody else, it might not be right for me. You know what I'm saying? So he might just loosen it up a little bit, say, hey, man, you're not going nowhere, right? I had to lock you up. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know what I'm saying? And then he might just say, hey, man, I say, hey, it's too tight. And then say, hey, unloosen a little bit for him. You know what I mean? And so those are the things that stand out to me. I have been in instances where I was doing wrong when I was a young buck. And one time I could tell you a story. One time, police officer, and he probably was tired of me anyway, because I was really a wild one on the streets. And he was a good guy too. I was cool with this police officer, and he was cool with me. I would say what's up to him and everything. But this particular night, he had enough of me, right? So, and he had his boys with him too. So I had to. I guess he kind of had his. I put him in a situation where he had to do his job. So at the end of the day, he told me, because he knew me by my last name. Hey, Campbell, what's up? What you doing up here? I said, nothing. And then he said, yo, you gotta go. Y'all gotta go. I said, all right. And then, because I'm a little bit defiant, like people telling you what to do and all this stuff. So I'm like, me and a couple friends, like, all right. So we basically slow rolled doing. He said, I'm gonna give you 10 seconds. And I said, and I'm listening for the count, because you telling me what you giving me. I'm gonna give you 10 seconds. He said, 1, 2, all right, that's it. You go, come on, you going to jail. And that was it. So it's like, oh, you said 10, and now you only gave me 2? Like, come on, man. As a brain injury person, I'm thinking to myself, I want that another 8 seconds. But, even if so, I'm just saying that to say, I know I was in the wrong back then, but if he would have, we was cool with each other. But he wound up actually choking me and everything in the back of that car that day too. He choked me because I was still talking my stuff. He's like, look, man, you want to go to the back of the alley or you want to go to the police station? I said, just take me to the station.
Mr. Campbell, thank you so much. You have talked to us about the de-escalation. And de-escalation is a big piece. And I know Linda and Eric have Blue Runway for Autism, which also talks about teaching law enforcement ways of not just identifying the disability, but also the de-escalation piece. So thank you for bringing that to the forefront. We had a, and I do appreciate you taking time to be with us. I know you're off to see the showing of the color purple. You know, tell Oprah hello for us. But we thank you so much, Mr. Campbell. And again, I know you're on your way to see that show, but we're grateful for you. And
I'm grateful for
your candidness about your life and, you know, even your integrity. We appreciate that because you identify that there are disconnects, but when the brain connects, there are choices as well. So thank you so much for bringing that to the forefront. When we look at the question, there was a question in the chat about the different colors. Ms. Hall brought out the fact that Aaron, correct, did not meet the silver alert.
I was stating Rashawn didn't meet the alerts for them to send out something to the public in order to try to locate him. Unfortunately, because Amber Alert and Silver Alert are the ones that apply here in Maryland. Unfortunately, he wasn't within those age groups, as well as he was not operating a vehicle. So there's no alert that could be sent out to citizens to be on the lookout for him and to notify the proper authorities in order to locate him when he was on the public transportation.
Right. And that's what's interesting is that me and my husband had the discussion about public transportation now, and also the train stations, that you can jump the barrier now and get on the train and you cannot be asked off the train anymore. So this is something that, you know, maybe you can help us, Sheriff Carr. Is that what you understand as well? In the metro, you can get on the, like what happened here, you can get on the bus, you can get on the train. And if you don't produce a ticket, or if you don't have a ticket, then there can't be an inquiry and you cannot be thrown off.
So I believe they were talking about more of the citations. So they weren't actively going out and enforcing as far as removal, because that became more of a confrontation than anything else. And as the confrontation may escalate, they're saying based off of that nature of that crime, that is more of a citation that they would actually issue instead of actually just physically removing you from that. So there's several crimes I know that have been discussed. Some of it has been some of the mass thefts as far as stores, where you have individuals, several individuals running into stores, grabbing items, and then running out of the stores. That has also been placed as far as a citation type offense. It is not handled as it used to be as far as that high level of theft. So a lot of our businesses have been complaining about that. But yes, because of the confrontation, they're not physically removing you off of train station or buses or anything else. It is a citation.
Wow. So we see that there has been some movement within public safety to become more community minded, but in that movement also has opened up probably a window of opportunity where we now have our hidden disability community, which may be at risk. I mean, it's a thin line. I think we walk with protect and serve. We do have other folks on the line as well. Please feel free to unmute. You can use the hand raise button and I'll call on you. I see our good friend, Dr. Gloria Crosland, Miss Virginia World over 60, and her royal ambassadors on. Thank you so much. Welcome. Jimmy's iPad, I see you as well. I don't know, with the Washington hat on there. But thank you all so much for joining us.
Mayor Cross, I'm sorry, excuse me. That's Mr. Hall, Mrs. Hall's husband. But Mr. and Mrs. Hall, Eric wanted to say something specifically to you, if you don't mind.
First of all, when we heard about the news about your son, me and my mom was praying. We were emotional. And I was just like praying about your son, that he was going to be found. And when I heard he was found, I was like, thank you, God. And when I saw that, I was like, this is why Eric's ID law is needed.
Right, when we saw it on the news. But when you came on just now with your son, Eric started his tears.
I started getting emotional.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh my God, Mom, it's him." I said, "Yeah, I told you they were going to be on."
Yeah.
But he's just really happy that he's safe. So yeah, I just wanted to give Eric that moment to acknowledge that Mayor Cross.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Yes.
Kathy.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm going to tell you, this is a beautiful moment here. Thank you so much. And it just shows the heart and really the connection, because we think, oh, well, we can't speak, but he hears, he understands. And he even said thank you to Eric. That is beautiful. We as a community have to open up the doors to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I believe in that window and in that vein, what we're trying to do to make the whole of community work, from recidivism and preventing it to bringing our returning citizens back stronger and giving them jobs and employment opportunities that actually produce a living. We are also going to take this to all of ours, and we're asking everyone to go to their legislators, to go to their county council members, to think about our community as a whole. The sum total of all of us is all of us working together. We can't ever negate that. So thank you so much for that moment, Miss Linda. I see we have Emmanuel on the line. Would you like to come on and speak as well, sir?
Good evening, everybody. I truly do apologize if you can't hear me. It's a lot of noise here. I'm actually at an event, and I make sure that I log on for the Zoom for the Zoom meet. I truly appreciate everybody speaking and what you had to share. Thank you so much, Christina, Ms. Hall, your son, and everybody else that spoke. The good captain, the authority, everybody, and of course, you as well, Mayor. So good to see you once again. All right. So I do apologize. A lot of noise in the background. I can barely hear. I just want to make sure I come on board, okay?
Well, thank you so much. We
Thank
do
you.
appreciate all of our community members that are logging in. Linda, Eric, I want you to know that this love in this space right now these are people that are willing to take their mouth to the legislators, to the community as well. And Ms. Hall, thank you and your family for just sharing your story, because honestly, we don't think about it. Okay. When you have a family where you don't have to contend with a hidden disability, you tend to forget pieces of the community where we need to build a hedge of protection. And that's one of the pieces that we've been talking about here recently, is the need to bring back the village. We do have one of our House delegates coming online, Delegate Kim Taylor. So we want to give her an opportunity to speak when she comes on. We have reopened this door of making lives better for the people in the community, all people, and state laws, federal laws, all cases, municipal law needs to be aware and count members of disability into the community concerns. Equal protections, safety, workplace, educational accommodations, public space access, government programs. This is what it was when we started this great nation. Everybody mattered. And so thank you for opening our eyes to what has always been there, but now we see. Thank you for bringing the story to the forefront, Eric, and thank you for being willing to share a little bit about your hidden disability, because no one wants to have it like placard on their forehead. Hey, I have a hidden disability. But it's a necessary thing when it is required for your own safety. And we are grateful for you stepping forward. We have Delegate Taylor online. Delegate, are you able to unmute yourself and speak to us? We're talking about hidden disabilities. We've heard from Mr. Eric Campbell, Mr. Eric Grantham, Mr. Tay Campbell, Ms. Christina Hall. We've also spoken to Sheriff Carr on some of the changes in law enforcement and protections to de-escalate, which may be opening the door, as Ms. Hall spoke to her son, got away from his caregiver and went missing for 6 days and was ending up in a room with no food and no water. And then they finally found him, but they didn't have like an Amber Alert that they could use silver alert. He was too young for, and so all of our alerts kind of failed him. So Eric's Law, putting something on an ID that showcases, hey, this is someone that may need some additional attention, may be a good thing. Welcome, Delegate Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. And, Eric has a lot of courage for, putting himself out there and just kind of making us all aware of these hidden disabilities. I promised them that I would jump on today so I could share with you personally my story and the story of my son, who's 25, who went away to college, very brilliant. While he was growing up, it was not conclusive that he was on the spectrum. We suspected it, but weren't sure. But he had a breakdown in college. We had to go get him. So at 21, he was diagnosed with high functioning autism and also schizoaffective disorder and ADD. But he doesn't look like a person, a Black male, a young Black male with those hidden intellectual challenges. And in fact, he has had 3 run-ins with the police to this date. And each one has been, more scary than the one prior. So I am in support of Eric's Law. I think it's something that we ought to do this session. I know that we already have a sponsor and co-sponsor. I'm hoping to make it a priority with both the Black Caucus and the Women's Caucus. This is something that our public, the community, and our law enforcement officials ought to be aware when they pull somebody over or they just see someone who's acting differently. You don't always know exactly what they're dealing with. And I think if, we had an idea, and then sometimes these folks don't feel like they can say what's actually wrong or what's happening with them. So if it's on your ID, then, it's apparent and it's equitable. So thank you again, Eric, for your courage to bring in your story. And I'm about to go into a very bad area, so I'm going to cut it short right here. Thanks again, Mayor, for pulling us together.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Delegate Taylor. We appreciate you always supporting the community and what you do. Dr. Gloria Crosland, we see your hand up, ma'am.
Thank you, Delegate Taylor. We really appreciate you for coming, and we are looking forward to work with you in the future. Really thank you for you. Really thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Eric. Dr. Crosland.
Thank you for inviting us, Mayor Cross. And you invited us for the Blue Runway, where we met Mr. Eric Grantham and his lovely mom, Miss Linda Carpenter Grantham. And we were equally impressed as Mr. DC and the Royal Ambassadors. And ever since then, we have always been at your call, Mayor Cross, when you call us out to support and to learn and become aware, because we're able to share what we have learned just today about Eric's Law out to other areas such as Virginia, such as DC, and other parts of Maryland. So we want to let you know, Mr. Eric, that we also, as Mr. DC and the Royal Ambassadors and Miss Virginia Senior World, we support Eric's Law. And if there's any letters that we can write, any assemblies or Congress meetings you would like for us to attend, just reach out to us. And thanks again for inviting us and for all that you do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Crosland. And we're also pushing forward to support with the getting the NAACP to recognize that the members of the society with hidden disabilities also needs to have legal rules that support. I know that it's incredibly confusing to a lot of members of society, particularly when you think about disabilities, how apparent are they? How non-apparent are they? But the truth is, with the legislative ID cards, with parking placards even, to help reduce the stigma, like Tay Campbell talked about, you know, having to speak about it. What if you're on a date? You know, what if you haven't told the date? You know, maybe I'm fully functioning autistic, but it just to speak about it. For him, he was 10 and he fell and hit his head on a nail that pierced his skull. So for him to start his life in a life of normalcy, to then go into a life where there are lapses and gaps in memory and time, for him, it's a different story, as you heard him speak. We heard from Ms. Hall and we heard about Mr. Sean and Mr. Sean going on an adventure. Well, with that, it was scary for all of us because that made the news and we couldn't find him, but we heard him tell Eric thank you for his care and his attention. So there is something that we can do as a community. Eric has been an inspiration and a light in our community. Miss Linda and Eric have taken their journey on this autism world and they have taken it and they have been a blessing in it. And Senator Smith has been working with Eric and Eric's Law. You'll see them on the Channel 9 News with him, standing up for Eric's Law to put it on the docket for discussion. And we are grateful, Delegate Taylor, for anything that you can do and anyone else that we need to send letters to make these non-apparent disabilities visible in our community. And that's legislation, ID cards, even parking placards. We can help reduce the stigma. We can also expand it to protect Sean, because if Sean had like a life alert or an ID or a tag or a beautiful chain that has it encoded that says, okay, he may have a hidden disability. This is something that helps and saves. A little ID that rolls back to a database that says, okay, here's the person of contact, here's the caretaker's number and all of that, so that we could get him home sooner than 6 days with no food and no water. We will make it easier, not harder in this future. We have to. As we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we must continue to shed a light on the communities of need. And I am grateful to Linda and Eric for the Blue Runway for Autism. I'm grateful for Eric's Law, and I'm grateful for everyone that's taken time, Sheriff Carr, out of their time to come together to make this statement that we're going to back Eric's Law, and we're going to expand it to even more protections for our community members and our leaders with hidden disability. So thank you all so much. Are there any other comments? We're going to let Eric hit it. We're right at our time. I know it goes pretty fast.
I wanted to say hello I wanted to say hello to the Royal Ambassadors, Emmanuel Garba and Aaron XC Triplet, who plays the saxophone ever so wonderfully, and to all the other Mr. DC Royal Ambassadors. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see Mr. Ross. Thank you so much. And I see Derek Ross there. Yes. So, all right, Eric.
Eric has one thing he wanted to tell you guys, but we just wanted to thank everyone, every person that has taken time out of their day to be a part of this evening. Thank you so very much. But Eric has something specifically that he wanted to show you guys, especially you, Sheriff Carr. If you guys only have like, how many minutes is it?
4 minutes, I think.
Well, he wants to show you something that he really wants you guys to see. And this happened here in Maryland not too long ago.
Is he sharing his screen?
He's trying to share the screen now.
Is it allowing him to share?
It's not
right. It's not allowing him to share.
Okay. Do you want to send it to me, Eric?
Yeah.
Send it to my email, Miss Linda. Sheriff Carr.
Eric sending it to you.
Thank you.
Eric sending it to you now, Mayor Cross.
Thank you. Sheriff Carr, any words?
No, I
This
mean,
it right
I
here.
think everybody
It's
pretty much touched on it. It's about communication, and I think it takes a great person such as Miss Linda and Eric, especially Eric, to come up with an idea and to be selfless, to think about his friends and others to get this started. And this communication that we're having, I think, is so important. So, I'm definitely in support, and I look forward to working with Eric as we go up to Annapolis in January.
Excellent.
He put it in the chat, Mayor Cross.
And not only Eric's ID though could be good for driver's ID. We were thinking about it can be used for college IDs, schools IDs, Costco's IDs, and many more IDs that people would love to put it on. And we hoping that it can just be on any ID and library cards too.
And also, just as a FYI, our annual Autism Blue Runway for Autism fashion show is going to be Saturday, April the 27th from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. And we hope that all of you guys can come out and support that. Chat, did you see it?
I see it here. I can't get it to play out loud, but let's see. I wanted to see if I can even turn on closed caption, but I do have it here.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Are you able to hear? He's saying he's paralyzed.
No.
Are you able to see?
No, we can't hear. We can see it, but we can't hear it.
So I'll narrate. At this point, he's been pulled over. He's paralyzed, and in the front seat, he has what looks like a bat. The cops have asked him to get out of the car. He says he's paralyzed. He's attempting now to exit the vehicle. So he's obviously using he's paralyzed, he's a paraplegic, but he's obviously using this metal pole here to drive the vehicle. So at this point, he's been set on the ground, and now they're having to lift him back into the vehicle.
Which is humiliating for him to be set on the ground being a person that's paralyzed. And this is Maryland police. I mean, this is
Charles
County.
It's right there. Carson, Charles County. Charles
Yeah,
County
but it's transit, Maryland
It
Transportation Authority.
So he has
they
a wheelchair in the rear.
They're more than likely right in
and
the,
what they're trying to do now is decipher how to get him back into his seat. I will acknowledge that the cop apologized. He told him he was sorry for, having to handle him in such a way. But they're apologizing now for what's happened. And so the pedestrian or the gentleman is asking him if he could have talked to him a little. He would have told him that he was paralyzed. He kept trying to tell him he was paralyzed, but in the process, I don't know if he was believed, and so he was asked to step out of the car, and then he went to the ground, and then he recognized that he really was paralyzed, and the chair is there in the rear. Now, I will acknowledge that the officers continued to apologize for the inconvenience, but they were following their laws and policies at this time with the young man in this the traffic stop. So constitutionally, this, the institutionalization of this process, Eric's law could have been a saving grace, because providing the ID would have said, with the symbol, and Linda, if you can show those signs that you have made, the
Sure.
diagrams, the pictures, you can see the symbol there, and it would have said, okay, this person is a paraplegic, or this person has
Absolutely.
PTSD, or this person has autism, this person has, um, diabetes or something, maybe suffering from a diabetic coma. These are things that are life-saving attributes that the community could use. So this is what Eric's law is
Absolutely.
about. It's about opening the
Absolutely.
discussion to hidden disabilities and making them visible with dignity.
Absolutely. And
Miss
Sheriff,
Linda and
I'm
Eric,
sorry, go ahead, Mayor Ross.
go ahead.
Sheriff Carr, I wanted to ask you, if you would come upon a stop like that, and it was a case of mistaken identity for that gentleman that was in the wheelchair, and actually, when you came to the Blue Runway for Autism last year, the young woman who sung, named Kim, she is paralyzed from the waist down, and she drives her own vehicle, and she is very fearful of something like this happening to her, with them not believing that she's paralyzed from the waist down because she drives her own vehicle. So I wanted to ask you, what are the requirements? Should something like that, you come upon a person who says, I am paralyzed from the waist down, but because you don't see that in their driving, what is the law? What is the rule, I guess, on stopping somebody with a disability like that?
So there's no actual set rule in reference to pulling somebody over that may be unable to stand or walk. If an individual is in that way or manner, they should actually do have a placard basically saying they may be handicapped or maybe tags. But the question is that, what was the rush of getting him out the vehicle? Why could you not communicate with him more to try to understand? If there was something to where he had a warrant or you thought he was somebody else, why not communicate that with him? And even if when you open the door, you should be able to, one, see that there's a wheelchair in the vehicle. Two, if you communicate with him, he may tell you, hey, I'm unable to stand, so I can't get out the vehicle. Having him try to get out the
He did say
vehicle
that.
and believe that, hey, well, you're lying to me. What is the issue and problem? The person tells you they can't stand, take them for face value. Why would I ask you to get out the vehicle if you're telling me this? Yeah, it may not be true or not, but if that's what you're telling me, that's what I'm gonna try to go by, and I'm gonna ask you additional questions. There's no rush. You're on the side of the road. It's a traffic stop. It's one of the most dangerous situations that officers actually come into contact with. But you need to be able to control that situation, and controlling it basically means having that communication and taking your time. There's no rush to hurry up and get him out, because now you're trying to put him back in the vehicle. You're not paying attention to traffic that's actually passing you.
Mm-hmm.
Who was to say that these officers or that individual, that gentleman, was not going to be struck by somebody else coming from behind him?
Mm-hmm.
So again, you got to take your time. You got to assess the situation. There's no need or no rush in order for you to say, hey, sir, I need you out that vehicle. And I think when we talk about Eric's law and everything else, it's about communication. It's about understanding exactly where that individual is coming from. So, in trying to meet them where they are. So I think, again, the additional training, but also if you're able to assess the situation and see that, hey, this individual has a disability, and if it's an individual, it's a visible disability, and I have some identification, then take the time in order to try to understand exactly what the next steps may be. So again, trying to put him in your vehicle, if he was arrested, because I couldn't hear the audio or why they asked him to get out the vehicle. Again, take your time, communicate with individuals. If you need assistance, you could have called Fire Board so that they can at least help or assist you. There's other ways it could have been handled. This is bottom line. And again, I'm Monday morning quarterback because I don't have all the information there, but I can tell you based off of that stop, I didn't see the urgency of trying to hurry up and get him out the vehicle. It didn't seem like he was trying to be combative or that he wanted to give them a hard time. That was something that they could have actually seen based off of his demeanor, as far as looking from waist down, how he was, and also seeing the fact that he had a wheelchair in the back. So if he told them, hey, I'm unable to walk, You see a wheelchair in the back. Okay, sir. Well, here's the situation and here's what we need to do.
Right.
Awesome.
Right.
Fantastic. I will also report that Eric, your law is going to be spoken at the Veterans Gala. So Mr. Emmanuel Garba is going to bring that to the veterans as well to acknowledge, again, many of our veterans suffer from PTSD. They also suffer from traumatic brain injuries, and they also suffer from bipolarism. You know, all these things are in our community. So you have just opened up an opportunity for us to understand a deeper appreciation is required for accommodations, not just in access, but in public space, government programs, and education. Education is the big key. So thank you all so much. Y'all, we are well into our time. Ms. Poole, did you want to have any more words?
No, I don't think so. Other than just another grateful thank you to you, Mayor Cross, for having this conversation. And as always, Linda and Eric for allowing me to participate in the things that they are advocating for. And I just as well look forward to, being wherever you need me to be. If I had to come to Annapolis, I'll come to Annapolis too.
Amen. All right, Miss
Everyone
Linda.
comes to them. Okay, Mayor Cross, first of all, thank you so much, Mayor Cross, for doing this for Eric's Law. We greatly appreciate you and all that you do to support everything in the world that's good and that's of God. So we just say thank you, and thank you to everyone. Thank you to Sheriff Carr for taking time out of your busy day to be a part of this. Miss Captain Pooh, I know you're not a captain no more, but it just always sticks there.
Yeah, Captain. Look, she with us. Don't say that. She's still with us.
Oh, okay. Mr. and Mrs. Hall, I reached out to them once I saw their story on the news because it really truly did affect Eric and I, but it really affected Eric. He wanted their son to be found. He was worried. We prayed on our knees for him, but when I found out that Mr. and Mrs. Poole also are trying to get a law passed that has something to do with the Amber Alert, we want to support them as well. So I invited them to be a part of what we're doing so that we can be a part of what they're doing as well to support one another, because this is truly a village type thing for people with invisible disabilities. And so, Dr. Crossland, we say thank you. You're always very supportive. So we just want to thank everyone, Mr. Ross, and I don't know who the person is because there's no name there, but thank you so much. And Ms. Baldwin, thank you. We just say thank you. The other last thing I really want to say is please write letters of support to ericsidlaw@gmail.com so that we can get these letters over to the senator. That's very important. And please share this and get letters written. And Eric wants to say one last thing.
And if it's going to get passed, it's going to get passed, but we will be the 12th state that's going to have something like this, because all my research I've been doing, Oklahoma has something like this. New Jersey just passed one actually this year. We talked to the people who have done it. For the DC actually had one, Virginia. So we will be the 12th state that will have something like this, and hopefully we can spread Eric's ID to every state.
And we are working on one symbol that all hidden disabilities could go up under. It would just be much easier to do it that way. So, but that's not concrete yet, but that is what we're thinking.
And we will be on the news tomorrow on Baltimore.
Oh, yes, we'll be on Baltimore News tomorrow morning at 6. They are already filmed. So if you guys are up, it's WMAR Channel 2.
Please write letters of support and keep on spreading the news, because we really want to spread the news to everyone about Eric's ID Law. Thank you for everything. Thank you for everyone. And thank you, Mayor Cole, for everything.
Thank you all so much. Give us that email address one more time to send our letters to.
ericsidlaw@gmail.com. So it's ERICSIDLAW@gmail.com. And I did put it in the chat box as well.
ericsidlaw@gmail.com. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Ms. Hall, Mr. Hall, we will be happy to support you as you push towards a different alert for our members of the community with disabilities that are hidden. I can agree with you 100% as I look through the definitions myself that there was a very unique case, but that is not okay. And I thank you so much for bringing it to the forefront. We will be there along your journey as well with Eric along his journey. And let's pray that these journeys together can go up for our members of communities with hidden disabilities. So, as I always end every mayoral forum, we keep moving the mission forward. Thank you so much for your time, for your discipline, for your care and consideration of all members of society. We will keep moving the mission forward. I'm Mayor Cashenna A. Cross. Happy holidays to everyone, and continue to support Eric's Law, and as we push for more legislation for members of our community with hidden disabilities. ericsidlaw@gmail.com. Thank you so much, Sheriff Carr, and thank you to the Mr. DC Foundation.
Thank you.